instead of having that mental conversation, it might be more effective and more important to have the conversation that goes like, I get the opportunity to run today. I get the opportunity to run faster than I did yesterday. How we doing, everyone? This is your host, Sebastian, coming back at you with another episode on the STAG Project Podcast. This episode is actually going to be the last one for season 1, so make sure you guys really take it in. I'll do a quick summary of the entire season at the end of this episode, so we can just kind of have a quick overview of what we talked about the past 10 weeks. So buckle on in and let's hop right into the episode. Alright guys, so for this last episode, the culmination of all the fundamentals, we're going to bring it down to, again, one of the things that I think is extremely important for everyone to know how to do and know how to make, and that's the decision-making process. So that's what this episode is going to be based upon. There's no special guest this time around. I'm actually back home, so none of my friends were able to join me for this one, but don't worry, in the new season, we're going to find a way to add guests on, either through Zoom or FaceTime, some form or way to do that. And then, of course, once the school starts back again, we'll have in-person guests and a whole new setup, which actually I want to talk about really quickly. The last setup actually just broke like 10 minutes ago, which kind of sucks, kind of unfortunate, but not fully in my control. So definitely for next season, we will have a new setup ready and available. Probably a nicer one too, because that one was it's a bit cheap. But anyways, decision making. We're gonna talk about decision making, the process that goes behind it, how it correlates to habits. I think that's a really important part of it too. I won't spoil much more, just hop right into it. So the decision making process. What does that entail? What is the decision making process? And it's kind of a broad question, because we make decisions every single moment of our lives. Every single moment that we live through is entrapped within a decision. So like right now, I'm deciding to record a podcast. Right now, I'm deciding to talk. I could just stare at the camera and not say anything. That could be a decision. And so the summation of every decision that we make is what makes or breaks our day, and eventually it can even lead to bigger things, and it could have a big effect on our lives. And it might sound strange, to talk about, like if I don't decide to do this today, I'll be fine tomorrow. I mean, that's not really what I'm getting at, because that could be 100% true. You could choose to not do something like run, for example. Say you want to get better at running. Say you can choose, I'm not going to run today, I'll be fine tomorrow. Yeah, you might be fine tomorrow. Like, nothing inherently bad is going to happen to you. But you missed out on a bit of progress. You missed out on an opportunity to get better. And I think here, opportunity is the key word. Because I feel like a lot of the times, some of the decisions that we make are kind of forced. I want to invite you guys to look at the decision-making process from a different lens. Look at it as you get the opportunity to do something. If you cultivate that mindset where you're looking at things from an opportunity perspective, then there won't be like a negative feeling or a negative emotion attached to doing it. And this is especially true for hard things. So again, we'll use the running example. We'll run with the running example. But say you want to get better at running, and you're like, I don't want to run today. I'm not going to do it. Like it's just like I don't want to have to force myself to be like, oh, I have to run today. I have to run X amount of miles and do it in X amount of time. And instead of having that mental conversation, it might be more effective and more important to have the conversation that goes like, I get the opportunity to run today. I get the opportunity to run faster than I did yesterday. And if I don't make it, it's okay. I can learn from how I ran anyways, and then try to improve upon it the next time. Because then you also get the opportunity to make mistakes and grow from those mistakes. You take them in and you learn from them. And I think that that's the beauty of it all, the whole decision-making process. And I mean, like I was saying, every single decision that we make, it adds up to something. In no matter how small it is, it's all like, I imagine it like Tetris blocks, or like they're building up. Not necessarily the whole cancellation part of it, but in the whole process, throughout life, you're gonna have to make the decisions. And it's interesting because if you can't make the small ones, how are you gonna make the big ones, right? So, like, let's say you have to write a paper, right? If you don't have the discipline to sit down and just write the paper because, say, it's due in like 2-3 days, then how are you going to be expected to do something bigger when you have a job? Or maybe not even have a job. Say you want to pursue something like this, like you want to make a podcast, or you want to start a business or something. If you can't make the in-moment decision to be like, all right, I'm going to sit down and focus on what I have to focus on to gain progress in this. I'm not going to complete it probably, but I can gain some progress. And that can go for both the business and the paper. You can split up writing the paper into different sessions. You don't have to sit down. I know a lot of people, they like to sit down and crank out all their homework in like 3-4 hour stints. And I think that can be a little bit ineffective for some people. It might work for some, but more important for you is to take action, get it done, but also remember to take breaks. So I say work for an hour, take a break for 10 minutes. Work for an hour, take a break for 10 minutes. Do a cycle like that, where you're not constantly just flooding and burning out your brain. And that also helps you, you doing that, setting up a routine like that, a study schedule, that helps with the decision-making progress, because you're deciding, okay, I'm going to study for X amount of time. I'm going to be 100% focused for it. That's my decision. And I'm going to move on, take a break. You're deciding to take a break, and that's totally fine. It's a recuperation. That's what you can look at it like. So again, it builds up. It's all a continuation. Like, it all builds up. And I mean, in life, a really key thing is that sometimes you won't have the luxury of being able to sit down and just think about making a decision. Sometimes you will have little to no time to make a decision. And this is where the process and the practice of the process, I like that. And I think that's a very powerful phrase. The practice of the process is what helps you get better at the process. And like I said, life will sometimes require you to, make very quick decisions, and decisions that can affect a lot of things. But you're going to have to be able to make those decisions. Nothing good will ever come from you sitting in a corner and making no decision. That's the worst thing that you can do, is not take any action, sit back, and just go through the motions of life. Let things take their own path. I mean, obviously, you don't want to be super strict when you're trying to control everything, because that's not what we're talking about here. It's more of when in a situation where there's a decision presented in front of you. What I'm getting at is that it's important to make a decision, even if it's the bad one, even if it's the wrong one, and you don't know until later. At least you made a decision and you practiced the process. And it's from those wrong decisions that we learn the most, if we decide to actually explore them. And I mean, that's a really big component. A lot of people are scared to really explore their mistakes because they don't want to relive those moments. But sometimes you just have to, in order to get better and to be stronger, you have to look at your past mistakes and be like, okay, I did this, and this wrong, and it happened because I started doing this and that led to that. Break down the entire process and really think, where did it all go wrong? and how can I do better next time? Like what are think of 3 solutions, that you could present to yourself in the entire decision-making process. Something that I'm taught, and my other friends are taught in ROTC is what's called the OODA loop, which stands for observe, orient, decide, act. Pretty sure that's what it stands for. Like 99% sure. So you can break that down. It's a good process. It's an effective process. So observe. Look around you. What's the situation happening? Yeah, it's observe, orient, decide, and act. I don't know why I blanked on that for a second, but that's what it is. Confident in that. So first is observe. Look around you. What does the situation look like? And again, this is 99% of this time, this method, the OODA loop, you're doing it in a short amount of time. Like it's not something where you're sitting down and actually thinking, let me observe and I'll orient myself. It's more of a continuous and quick process. So observe. What is the situation around you? What are the variables? Who are the people involved? The whole scope of the situation. And then you want to orient yourself. So kind of that just means start aligning yourself with what you want to do. Kind of like planning, almost like you're figuring out in your head, okay, what's my course of action? What am I going to do next? And then decide. That's when you take that planning that you did in the orient phase and you go with the decision. This is the most important part, is actually taking and making that decision. Like I said earlier, you don't want to be that person who makes no decision and then you just do the OO loop. It stops at orient, observe, orient, and then you're done. Like that is an incomplete loop and you don't do anything. You always want to make a decision no matter what. So yeah, orient, observe. I keep messing it up, but I know it's observe, orient, decide, and then act. So upon making the decision is when you act, the action. And then like we've talked about in many, many episodes, action is it's the key frontier of, it's how things get done. It's how you become better, is through action, going through the motions. And just say you just plan, right? If you're just constantly always planning something but never taking any action, you're moving only a few steps, 2-3 steps. But when you take action, you're taking leaps that gives you progress. You make that decision to act, which is again extremely important. The decision-making process is what comes before the action, which is why I'm talking about it, because I tell you guys to take action, but in order for you to make action, you need to make a decision, and that's what comes before the action. The entire decision-making process. That's why it's so, so important. And now just kind of moving on past the OODA loop, another thing that the decision-making process ties really well into is your habits. And habits, are just, they're actions that you take on a daily basis or monthly basis, whatever. They're actions that you take that kind of happen naturally. And then, you can build and break habits, as many of you know. Like obviously the most example one is like waking up and then brushing your teeth. Like that's a habit you've learned since you were little. You want to keep a habit like that, but that habit is built through and by action. You get up, you walk to the bathroom, turn on the light, and you brush your teeth. All of those are actually a combination of mini actions. Getting up, turning on the light, brushing your teeth, action, 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 action. And that's one of the reasons why it's really important to look at this process, because you are constantly running something similar to the OODA loop. And we'll take this scenario and we'll break it down, because I kind of like it. You wake up, all right? I don't want to say you exactly make a decision to wake up. I mean, your body just naturally wakes up. But when you wake up, we'll start after that. You wake up and then you're running that OODA loop in your mind. You decide, okay, I'm going to get up. You get up. And the beautiful thing about habits is that they make the process, they're what streamline the process and make it where you don't even have to think about it. And this can be very powerful. It can be very powerful to, start routines without even thinking of them, especially if they're healthy routines. Like, say, sitting down, reading a book. That could be an example. Again, we can roll with our first example of brushing your teeth, right? So, make that decision to get up. You make the decision to walk over to the bathroom. You make the decision to turn on the light. You make the decision to grab your toothbrush, brush your teeth. All of those, again, really what I'm trying to convey here is the connection and combination between an action and a decision. And so imagine like a long string, right? And this long string is your day, your entire day. This entire string is full of beads, and there's 2 beads connected per each action/decision. And the first bead here is like your decision, and then the second bead here is your action, and then whatever the next process you do in your day: decision, action, decision, action, decision, action. And it forms whatever you want. Obviously, think about it like a giant bracelet. At the end of the day, it all comes full circle. When you decide to go to bed, you take your last action and you go to bed. And to me, that's an interesting way of thinking about it. And I think that helps with visualizing what it's like to have habits. Because those small spaces, the decision, the action, that's a habit, right? Every habit is made out of the decision, and then the action is up to you to really establish and make the habit full. It's like a 50-50 process. Now, I'm going to move over to talking about bad habits and kind of where they come from. Their bad habits, again, come from our decisions. And you could be in any given situation, and usually you're presented with 2 choices, right? So say I'm just in my room, whatever, on my phone. I have the decision to scroll through social media, or I have the decision to, say, throw something out there, text a friend I haven't texted in a long time, right? As I'm staring at my home screen, I have to make that decision, and that decision will either lead to a good or bad habit. And I know a lot of people don't like looking at things as, black and white, good or bad, but at the end of the day, they all fall into one category or the other. Some habits, I guess, like people might say you can put them in like a neutral category, but no matter what's really important is the habits that you carry out each day work towards creating the identity and the person that you want to be. So ultimately, even if the habit was neutral, if it didn't benefit your overall growth and didn't make you closer to becoming the person who you wanted to be, that habit does not fall under the good habits tier, right? You have to, it's whatever creates the identity that you want. That is what is categorized as a good habit. All right, moving on to the last section of this episode. I was going to keep it short. That was the original plan, because I also want to summarize the season, as I said earlier. So I'll sum it all up with what I've said in the past, but with more emphasis and with more vigor, with more information, and that's taking action. Everything, this whole process is useless unless you take action. Unless you take that first step, it's absolutely useless. And I talked about it earlier. Some people, they make plans, they spend a lot of time planning, and then they don't take any action. And I think a reason why that happens is they spend so much time planning that they get lost. They get trapped in the notion of, oh, I'm going to plan every single move and make sure everything's coordinated. And they get so overwhelmed and caught under the trap, caught under the spell that I just need a plan, I need a plan, and then I'll take action later, No, that's, in my opinion, again, that's the wrong way to look at it, because you could be looking at it from a perspective where it's an opportunity, but you forget yourself at that point when you go too far, right? You want to look at it as two opportunities. So you get the opportunity to plan, and then you want to use the momentum that you get from planning to take action. Right there, you're making two decisions and an action, and you're taking those opportunities and rolling with them. And like that's honestly, that's what it comes down to. That's the most important thing. I'm not saying planning is bad. I think planning is great. I do a lot of planning. The problem with planning is you don't want to get caught up into it to the point where it stops you from taking action. You want to make sure that you use it as momentum, use it as your fuel, as your power source. I think that's where a lot of people, they go wrong. You know, they plan their entire day for tomorrow, say, and then they're like, okay, like that's it, whatever. And then say they skip one thing, oh, then okay, it's okay if I skip another thing, blah, blah. And then it's a repetitive cycle. So really, really important. Yes, plan, but also remember there's two sides of it. It's a 50-50 process. The entire decision-making process and the process of taking action, they all stem from one thing. A great way to put your plan into action is showing up every day. Say you want to build a habit of going outside for a walk. Something very common, something anyone can do. Just say that's what you want to build up. Show up every day, even if it's for 5 minutes. The thing with habits is they're built up the more you practice them. The longer, it's more of the more times you do it, the more repetitions you get in, the faster that habit it stays with you. So a lot of people say like, oh, it takes 21 days to develop a habit, it takes 60 days to develop a habit. No, it depends how many times, how many repetitions you're repeating that habit, or that action rather. As you keep repeating that action, you know, your brain and everything, it just starts taking everything in and being like, okay, this is a process. When the first time you do it, you're like, this is new. Your brain's thinking like, this is new. What do I do? But you go through with it, and then eventually, as you do it more and more and more, your brain gets trained to the point where it's like, all right, this is easy. I can just run this on a loop. That's essentially how habits work. It's almost exactly that simple. So show up every day. And then this is to whatever your goals, your aspirations, your dreams, to whatever it is, to whatever the habits that you want to have to create that identity for yourself, you have to show up every single day. And just do something. Even if I said, even if it's for 5 minutes, that's totally fine. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 2 minutes, it could be 3 minutes, it could be 10. However long, as long as you're doing it consistently. Consistency is absolutely, it's an essential. It's an essential. And it's not its own episode because it falls into everything, but consistency is extremely important. Being able to show up every single day, do what you have to do. And sometimes, like we've talked about it in the discipline episode, and persistence, sometimes you don't want to. You really don't want to, but think about it. If you get that rep in, if you do what you had to do, you're one step closer to your end goal. You're one step closer to really aligning with that identity that will form you. And like, identity is the most important thing. You want to make sure that you have a strong identity, a strong self-identity. So when you present yourself to others, you present yourself to yourself, you know, it's respectable. It's something that you're proud of, something that you're amazed at what you've been able to build through your habits, your decision-making process, and your action. That's how you live a fulfilling and happy life. In my opinion, that is exactly how you do it, is by always taking action, never stopping. You just doing the things you have to do. Even if you don't want to do them, you still do them because you want to reach your goal. You want to reach that state of self-identity that you are the most proud of. And it's not something that will be attained easily, but it's something that is definitely attainable. Being able to get to that level of self-identity. And again, you're going to make mistakes down the road, even after you've achieved this identity. But like, the identity will never be 100% full. But when it's 99, 98% full, like, that's okay. And it's never going to be 100% because you're always going to make mistakes. Some days you'll slip, but as long as you are showing up and doing the things that you truly want to do, there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. And that's how you become that greater version of yourself. Well, that's going to wrap it up for everything I have on decision making. Again, a really, really important topic, and I hope you guys learned a lot from this. Quick recap on the entire season. So this season was all based on the fundamentals that I think everyone should know, everyone should be aware of when going through life and when wanting to become the best version of yourself. So first off, we started off with value. Watch where you place your value. What do you place your value in? That kind of stuff. Trust. It's really important to trust in yourself and to trust in others. You won't get far if you're not trusting other people, and you can't do this alone. As much as you would want to be that lone wolf, it's not going to work. We're social creatures. We're social beings. We have to be around other people. Presence, in the presence episode, the first thing I remember is establishing, that bubble and kind of like letting people in, or, if they step over your bubble or whatever, expanding your bubble, that kind of stuff. Energy, so that plays a really big role with the presence that you give, but also in singular events, the energy that you have. So how do you compose yourself in a certain situation? What energy do you give off? That's more of what I'm referring to. But energy is also, it can be described in, your social energy, your sexual energy, all that kind of stuff. Where do you place that energy, and how do you use it and utilize it to become a higher version of yourself? Then we talked about mindset. That's when we had Dawn on for the first time. That was a great episode. Really, the biggest nail in that episode was talking about a growth mindset. So a growth versus a fixed mindset. Make sure you guys are always sticking towards that growth mindset. That's how you become better, and really, it's how you see life from a different perspective, and that perspective is it's what stops you being sad, and just all the bad habits, all the bad that could come from overthinking, from being in your own mind. Having a growth mindset fixes that. Then we talked about overthinking. That was another big episode, especially in today's society. Overthinking is a really big thing, so just make sure you guys are watching out for that. Really be humble, control your thoughts. Make sure you understand that, this isn't just a you thing. There are other people in this world, and you have to respect other people and their spaces. Then we spoke about commitment. That's when I had Connor come in. We talked about it in different aspects when it comes to relationships, how you can stay committed there, committed to your goals, your dreams. Then episode 8, Discipline with Ella. That one was one of the most key episodes, that one and commitment. The last, so 7, 8, and 9 were really, really big topics. And in Discipline, we just talked about getting up, and again, that's really when we started introducing taking action. Persistence with Agbo. That one, again, another really, really important one. And with persistence, it's what you need when you're chasing after any goal, and you can especially apply this and everything else that we've talked to the decision-making process, which wraps up season 1. It's been quite a journey, I'm not gonna lie. Honestly, it was more of an experiment. I didn't see, I mean, I wanted to see how far this would come, and I think we've made great progress and great strides, and I can't wait to, start up the next season. I'll definitely have more information for you guys when that stuff comes out. But that's going to do it for this episode. If you guys could just check out the Champion 75 that I've been posting every single day, kind of just tracking the progress on that. Make sure you guys follow up on that. From here, we're going to take about a week break, and then we'll start the new season up. No date yet, but there will be a date on when that'll start up, and that'll get announced to you guys. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this content. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next one.